So I was thinking about reviewing another Black Mask comic, but I stopped because I had a question. Why are Black Mask comics so political? There must be a reason, so I decided to check their submission policy. I want you to know this is 100% real. This is from their page, quote, "Why are you better than anyone else to tell this story? Do you have unique experiences or knowledge or skills that inform the work?" Oh shit. So let's go through the submission page. It starts off normal, asking for the name of the project and everyone involved and contact information. But then it gets weird very quick. At the bottom of the creative team section, Black Mask Comics asks, quote, "Is there anything you consider unique about your background, experience, cultural point of view, race, gender, orientation, etc., that you'd like us to consider when assessing your creative voice?" Why do you need to know this? In what way would this be remotely relevant to deciding whether the creative team has the skill and talent to deliver a solid book? I mean, that is really your primary concern as a publisher. You want to publish good material. Every book isn't going to be a masterpiece, but it should be competent. But if your primary concern is how someone's cultural point of view affects their creative voice, or whatever McDonald's-style word salad you said, you're just begging for a subpar work. Honestly, how does someone's race, gender, or orientation matter when assessing their creative voice? If they're black, do you give them a pass when they can't spell? If they're gay, do you give them a pass for writing stereotypical characters? If they're female, do you just take away all reason and responsibility? Moving on. We get to the story section, and Black Mask wants to know about the characters, plot, and themes, and then we get this. Quote, "Why do you want to tell this story? Is there something personal about it?" Again, why do you need to ask this? It just comes off as patronizing. Why do you want to tell the story? Because I want to. What kind of question is that? It's like asking why someone wants to eat or listen to music. And this question about, is there something personal? Obviously there's something personal about it. It's their story. They came up with the idea. It's obviously going to be influenced by their personal experience. You shouldn't even have to ask this question. But I know what this is. They're fishing. See, they're not going to flat out ask about the politics because they know that could get them into some trouble if they turn down certain people, straight white men, who don't fit their demographic. But if you wrap it in this cagey language, then you can make the person tell you this on their own. They offered it up. You didn't ask. It'd be clever if it weren't so obvious. Then we get to the one that left my mind boggled. Quote, "Why are you better than anyone else to tell this story?" Because it's my story. What type of dumbass question is that? Who else is going to tell it? Are you going to hire someone else to tell my story if you don't like it? Oh, I think your response was a little weak. Kwanzaa Mfufu, you want to come over here and write this for him? Are you getting so many stories that are exactly the same that you have to weed them out? That's a rhetorical question. I know the answer is yes. And then there's this. Quote, "Do you have unique experiences or knowledge or skill that informs the work?" We're talking about making comics, not applying to be a private contractor. It's fiction. The only experiences, knowledge, and skills you need are literacy, the ability to draw, coherent storytelling, and creativity. Nothing else matters because anything you want to write, you can just make up. This is another example of them fishing for identity politics. They want people to play on their race, sex, and sexuality, and clearly the ones who do it right and inject the right amount of left-leaning politics will get their books published, regardless of whether or not they're capable creators. It's sad to see a company reduce itself to this type of thing, but it's worse to see it in print on their submission page. It speaks to exactly why so many of their books are so political while being so poorly written and drawn. It also answers this question, which set me off into giggles. Why do you want to tell this story at Black Mask? Because you're the only ones who'll publish it. I mean, come on, your entire line is full of far-left political diatribes. Anyone with the desire to push their politics without any fear of being questioned or edited would try to publish with Black Mask. It's the go-to place for that kind of book. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what Black Mask wants to do that. Just be upfront about it. Like Oni Press. This is 100% real. From Oni Press's submission page, quote, "What Associate Editor Ari Yarwood wants to see. I got my start in literary journals and feminist pop culture critique. Shout out to bitch. I'm looking for complicated, nuanced characters with a developed perspective. I want to see diversity and originality. and I want stories with underrepresented characters. All I had in my formative years was a live journal and the L word, and no one should have to rely on the L word to see themselves reflected in media. I'm a big fantasy, sci-fi, romance, and literary fiction fan, but most of all, I want to read something I haven't seen before. My favorite movie is Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, because life is a rich tapestry. Then we got this, what senior editor Charlie Chu wants to see. The biggest thing I would like to see from incoming submissions is more diversity in not only the voices we publish, but also the kinds of stories and characters in our books. For far too long a period of time, we've seen way too much of the same ideas from the same narrowing demographic of creators get pitched to us. You're an editor and this is what you're writing. Stop with the commas. Don't be afraid to use a period and end the damn sentence. And the only way to change that is to evolve the pool of creators we're talking to. If you're a female writer or artist, someone who identifies as a person of color, LGBTQ, MNOP+, asterisk, hashtag up, down, left, right, hold A, press start, consider this an invitation and please come pitch us. We're not looking for affirmative action in our books by any means. Oh, but you are, because you're the only one who brought it up. But with readership growing larger by day, it's important we find space for new voices who bring new ideas to the table while still maintaining the same level of pop appeal that defines the Oni Press library. As a tentpole and genre-focused member of editorial, I'm hoping to find fast-paced and ambitious books that center around grounded, believable characters with the same diversity as the world we live in, and most of all, books that are fun, accessible, and original. Where you're not going to get that if you're only interested in getting stories based around identity politics. Those stories are designed to appeal specifically to people like the creators. They're created with the explicit message that if you don't belong to that group, these books aren't for you. You shut down that accessibility as a result, just like you shut down the originality. That happens because most of the stories will inevitably fall back to identity politics. And as a result, they're probably going to talk about the same themes over and over and over again. But at least this explains what happened to Oni Press. If you're straight, white, male, or any combination of those, they probably don't want to print your work. They're not interested in your story, just your identity, and they will favor those who belong to special identity groups over you regardless of the quality of your work. Black Mask, on the other hand, is using this fishing tactic to avoid what's obvious. They're a far-left comic book publisher. Just come out of the closet. It's not like anybody's fool. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.